Hello, welcome. This particular video is on why I'm no longer a Christian. This has been long overdue. I have in several other settings talked about why I was no longer a Christian, but for the benefit of those who may have not had a chance to view that videotape, I would like to give you this tape coming from Omiinka 7, aka Sherrill Garth. This is a long story, but I can only start from the beginning. I can say from the time I was 14 years old, I was in the church practicing how to be an evangelist. And the reason why I say that is because I wore many hats at the time. Many hats. And because the churches were just developing, they had congregations of families that were involved in coming to church and singing and practicing being holy and sanctimonious. Now, what I would like to say is that I know it's very important that we should bow down to something greater than ourselves. And I've oftentimes known that there was a greater force with me. Upon losing my mother at such an early age and my father at the age of 10, my mother at the age of 2 years old, I felt I had this special connection with my mother and that I had to stay connected to spirit. Now, as I got baptized and came into the faith of being a missionary at Wheaton Christian Church, Second Baptist Church in Wheaton, at that point I wanted to be everything I could be so I could get to heaven and see my mother. I was young then. I soon realized I didn't have to die to go to heaven to see my mother, that my mother could be felt and experienced right here in the now. Nevertheless, I stayed close to the cloth throughout my college years and into my adult years. And because I wanted to be in right standing, I realized it was very important to have a faith because I did not want to be a heathen, because that's what we call folks who didn't have religion, a heathen. And at that time, I didn't know any better. I thought that everyone was a Christian, and that was the way to go, that we had to convert everyone into Christianity. Later, as I began to meet other people and find out that you could very well be just about anything as long as you were decent and in order and follow some sort of bylaws. So I began to have friends of many different faiths and many different denominations. And I saw the Christians frowning upon that, looking down upon that. Sherrill, don't you know they're not Christians? And I was drawn to those who were not Christians because there was a sort of sincerity in them. And it didn't matter to me if they were Christians or not. I said, how in the world can God be in every aspect of this world and Jesus be everything to everyone and Christianity be the only faith? When we know there were different religions, different cultures, it was impossible for Christianity to be the only faith, and that was the only path to get to know God. Because I met other people, such as Buddhists. I met beautiful Buddhist people who practiced their faith in its wholeness. I didn't bow down with them to say the prayer and to also chant with them. Then I met other beautiful Islamic Muslim, Orthodox Muslim, who prostrated themselves on their rugs to say their prayer. My godmother was an Orthodox Muslim, and by golly, I was going to pray with her in whatever language that I knew best, because I saw the beauty in that religion. So I became one who submitted to Allah as well, as I became one who submitted to Buddha's fivefold path. Then I came into my own, and someone sanctioned me and sent for me. This was right after I got out of theology school. I spent 1.5 years in theology school at Liberty Temple Full Gospel for Christ. There with Clifford E. Turner, who was our shepherd and who led us. I learned everything I could about the scriptures and how to deliver. I was one of his most passionate students, that he felt that I had great opportunity ahead of me and that I could recruit large sums of people. I had already been in a missionary ministry for marriage and family affair ministry, so he knew of my background. So that even encouraged him more for me to go into evangelistic school. So prior to that, me and 12 other individuals in our homes, we grew up a church called Christian Tabernacle Church from our home. So I became a founder, one of the 13 founders of a church that stands there in Elk Grove Village. Now, how could I walk away from all of these responsibilities when I knew in my heart that Christianity was not right for African Americans? I knew that we were missing something. Our culture was absent from this religion. I felt that this was a religion that bound us and put us in slavery once again. And even though I thought these things to myself, I did not know how I could break free. So as I went on to practice being an evangelist, I could not bring myself to gather up a flock and to teach these things that I didn't believe any longer myself. I was then summoned by Chief Metahochi Wali Zanu to come to his presence. He wanted me to become a Yalade and also to study under him as a priestess. I knew he was right because he began to tell me things about myself, and he too was an orphan child. He called himself the swamp priest and an orphan child. He began to tell me that the Spirit was with me and that he should give me a new name, Omiyinka, meaning water surrounds me, Spirit surrounds me, ancestors are there with me. They came here with me at birth. I studied with Chief Metahochi Zanu Wali for over 4.5 years. There was also Adiyemi, his assistant, who trained me and taught me the spiritual things of Ifa, which came from the Yoruba teaching with the customs and traditions that went along with it. I felt so at ease and so at home with this religion because it allowed me to learn customs, rituals, and traditions. And that's what I believe an African should have. Now, a lot of you may say, but you never lived in Africa. No, I have never lived in Africa. But the culture was suited for me because it brought to me information about who I was and who my ancestors were. And I could answer to that. Why I stopped being a Christian. I saw so many things in the church that weren't right. Lies were being perpetuated, and stories were also being fabricated that I knew better. There were so many questions that I had and issues that I wanted to take up. I felt it was so many that it would be best to just get out while I can. because Christians can do some devilish things to you if they think you're going against their Jesus Christ. I even found out that Jesus Christ was not a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed man, and that in reality, they were referencing to Oromallah, the one who knew the inception of man, who was right there at the right hand of God when God asked Oromallah to shape and to mold man, but God gave the breath of life. The story that the Africans told for Ifa was a different story. It was a story that I could relate to, and it didn't sound made up. I had a hard time realizing why God only put Adam and Eve on this earth to only marry their children with each other. It didn't make sense. And it didn't make sense why Mary had to give a virgin birth and she knew no man. It did not make sense because I know Joseph was her main man. And because if Joseph was her main man, he probably called himself Holy Spirit and snuck in the night and got with Mary. That's what I felt in my heart. Nobody could tell me anything any different because I knew that there were many women just like Mary. And because Mary was called the virgin woman, could there possibly be other women out there that were also virgin women too? Fabricated lies. And then when I found out the story of Jesus on the cross, I wondered, did Jesus go down for us into Haiti? And if he did, on the third day when he rose, did he ever come down off the cross? And in my opinion, I believed and read other things from other books, like the Holy Tablet, that showed Jesus living on and coming off the cross. I question a lot of these lies. Some ministers could not give me an answer, and I knew it was just to further enslave African Americans. I felt if these books were used during the slave time, then they allowed these books to be used just so that they could further encapsulate us into slavery. I wanted to be free from anything that associated itself with slavery. I wanted to be able to reconnect myself to my culture. And Mother Padaz in The Daughters of the Dust explained to us what went on with our customs and tradition and our backward ways where we believe we took a little bit of the spirits of our ancestors with us across the water. I know this personally and firsthand because I knew my mother was always in my back pocket with me, pushing me forward. I knew that I had a visitation from her at age 10 years old when she came into my room during the night and spoke to me, and a white light hovered over me when I could not move. I knew that was real, and no one could tell me anything different because some of the things that I was hearing from Jehovah's Witness, that when you're dead, and that's the end of you, and there is no other spirit that lives, and those are bad demons, and don't talk to them. I said, I will never turn away from my mother. There's nothing you could tell me that will make me turn away from her. She is a spirit, and I know her in the spirit, and I was introduced to her in the spirit. Why I stopped being a Christian? Other things were going on. Things like them changing your checking account when you wrote a check to the congregation. I saw the fivefold ministry being favored, given the benefit of the doubt and giving extras and treated impartially different than the congregation. I saw lies being told. I saw preachers giving preferential treatment to visitors to sit up front close near him. I began to look at how people were treating the preacher. They were literally throwing money down towards his feet as if he was a God. They were leaving God out and putting too much attention on Jesus. All these things I did not like. So I left the church. Yes, I was an evangelist and I left the church. People whispered about it. Has she left the church? Does she no longer believe in Christianity? But she was a big time evangelist. Yes, I was. And had a great following of couples that I ministered to. But I had to leave for my own sanity. I could no longer keep having these dreams and could not share them with the congregation. I could no longer have clairvoyant ability to see into the lives of others and to have healing hands that I couldn't even use in the congregation for fear of being called fraudulent. And those who had these gifts had to hide them and tuck them away. Well, I can no longer tuck those gifts away. I have to say, from this henceforth, I am salubrious diversity. Wherever I find truth, that is what I'm practicing these days. However, I was orchestrated and trained in the area of Yoruba Ifa. However, I embrace all truths that pertain to African faith. I no longer cater to Christianity. The biblical Bible is not really a guide, but you can take the oracles of Ifa and map your life out and predict your life. We all need rituals and ordination, and we all need our children dedicated back to God and naming ceremonies to shake off the old name that our slave masters gave us and put on new names that we are obtaining so that we can begin to see something different in the world. We have got to understand that we are God's little children and we have overcome them. And that because we are God's, we have Ori that sits on our head, that dwells with us, that talks to us, that inspires us, that quickens us. And the African faith, be it as it may, is designed so that you are mounted by God. God visits one of his people and he speaks through his people so that his people can give a word for the congregation or for the community at large. And there's also a time through the dancing we work out our situation and our salvation. We've got to come away from Christianity and embrace our own cultures and rituals and denomination. It is very vital that we should see that without this, we cannot be all that we can be. I want us to understand that coming away from Christianity is not a bad thing. When we took Christianity, we were hoping to better some of the other races who needed it the most. But now we embrace it and take it as if we need it for us. We had a clean heart. We were rightly guided people. We were directed to do the right thing. But it turned out that now some of us have fallen lower than the refugee. And we think it strange that if we come away from Christianity, we'll perish. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you don't come away from it, you are going to perish. Why I stopped being a Christian is the question today. And the reason why is so I could free myself and be myself. So thank you for letting me be myself again today on this channel. You've been listening to Maddie Harvey's Baby Sister, and I'd like to say thank you for tuning into my channel and continue to follow the leader. Oh, double and baba booey to you, y'all. Shelaf yani.